Hello, welcome everybody. It's great to have you with us for another edition of Maker Stories. So, for those of you who don't know who I am, my name's Maria Marquis, and here at Coda, I focus on customer education, outreach, and in general, just celebrating all of the awesome people that build really great tools on top of our system. So, in Maker Stories, what we do is we sit down with one of our makers, get a deep dive into their brain, how they built this stock, the problems they were trying to solve, and most importantly, just having an open forum for all of you to pick my brain, their brain, and just nerd out on Coda for a little bit. So, lucky for all of you, I'm joined by the fantastic Gannon Hall. Gannon, do you want to introduce yourself to the group today in case they haven't heard of you?
Sure. My name's Gannon. I'm a currently the chief product officer at Choco Communications, which is based in Berlin. However, I'm in New York City at the moment. I've been working in tech for about 30 years. I was one of the product leads at Google Maps. I was a head of product at Shopify. Did several startups. I'm just kind of a product nerd, I
Love it.
guess.
Yeah.
Um, yeah. So
Awesome. So, fellow nerds, welcome everybody. Great to have you here. For those of you who are with us, just a little bit of kind of rules of the road, how today's going to work. There's no such thing as an interruption in these sessions. We have the chat field available for you. You can use that at any time to post questions, thoughts, feelings, emotional outbursts, whatever might come up for you. And we also have under our faces the Ask a Question button. If you have a question, that's going to be the best way for us to make sure we don't lose it in chat, and also so you can go and jump right to that afterwards if you want to watch the recording. So please feel free, post the question anytime. You don't have to wait for us to stop talking because I'm sure Gannon and I could go and go and go. Also,
indeed.
if you're not sure like what kind of questions you have, you can still look at the questions and upvote and downvote so Gannon and I answer the most pressing and important issues. So that's just sort of our rules for the road today. Anytime you've got a question, please let us know. We are here for you. Anything Coda or Gannon related, fair game. So, Gannon, do you want to walk us through kind of how you found Coda and the problem you were looking to solve when you were getting ready to go?
Sure, sure. So, I have throughout my career, I guess I should start by saying that for me, product management, especially product leadership, is fundamentally a the product that we create is process ultimately.
Mm,
We don't code, we don't design. Sure, we ideate product ideas and develop PRDs and so forth, but we don't actually build things
mhm,
necessarily. So a lot of what I found throughout my career is necessary is to put in place frameworks and mechanisms that enable teams to operate efficiently, optimize for kind of cross-functional engagement, addressing every issue from kind of communications to internal communications and internal awareness to prioritization and involving the whole company in that
mhm.
process. I see product very much as a kind of a team sport. Frankly, I think if
Yeah.
you're not engaging all of your disparate cross-functional departments, you're probably doing it wrong. So the challenge, of course, has been like how to manage that, right? And especially someone such as myself who's fairly process driven.
Mhm.
um, I relied for a long time on Google Docs, spreadsheets, and so forth. Um, Certainly tried a lot of the like product management and project management platforms out there. And the problem I found with those is that, for better or worse, I have my way of doing things, right?
The best way.
It's not necessarily the right way or the best way, but it's the way that works for me, right? And
Yeah.
it is very much a Frankensteining of a lot of stuff that I've kind of pulled throughout my career. So all of those packaged platforms kind of force you to really adapt their methodology,
Mhm.
and I found that very limiting and inflexible. And frankly, I think when you're working in, especially in technology companies, you have to adapt your processes frequently. I mean, it's just like building a product. You want to
Right.
ship things early, you want to get feedback, you want to iterate. Well, the way that you run a tech organization should be run in a similar fashion. It's you kind of come in there with some heuristics of what you think will work based on what you've done before, and that's where you start. and then based on feedback and based on the dynamics of the company and the culture of the company, you need to make frequent adjustments.
Hmm.
And those tools just didn't allow for that. So then I would always go back to Google Docs.
Yeah.
And then I was actually, it was a friend of mine, Brandon True, who's a big Coda user too, former, he's the COO at Mindstrong right now, but he was a product leader at Uber for a long
Hmm.
time as well. And he told me about it. And he said, "Man, you got to check this out. I think this is going to help you significantly." And it was basically love at first sight. I mean, it
Ah.
just, I was like, "Wow, okay, so I can build the documentation and the processes and all this stuff the way I want to build them, and then iterate on them,
Hmm.
which is fantastic." But I've also seen within Choco, which is kind of the first company where I've really brought this. I'm now seeing a lot of other people within the organization, not only building their own frameworks and Coda docs, but also enhancing the core tools that I've built.
Yeah.
Um, so and adding like things I didn't think about, and for a while there it was, Gannon, can you change this? Can you change that?
Mm.
And then after a
Yeah.
while it was, do you mind if I change this myself? I'm like, Please do.
Love it. Yeah.
Absolutely. And so now, it's like it's grown, and there's more tools out there. One example is our head of engineering, Gab. He created a really great TDD, a tech design document,
Mhm.
um, using a lot of the kind of the principles that are made available in Coda, like being able to email people to remind them about stuff,
Mhm.
upvoting. I've read it. All these
Yeah.
like little things that seem almost trivial, but are really, really helpful.
Yeah, for sure.
So yeah, it's been great. It's been great to see the adoption at Choco, and yeah, I mean, it's just really fundamentally changed the way that I work. So it's
Wow,
great.
that's amazing. I also just love how you're right. It is sometimes these just little things that all of a sudden just make a process click together and work in a way that it didn't before. And it's
Right.
like just something as simple as like a button that says I've read it and I now know who's read it. Like super small, a button in
Yeah.
a table, but
Yeah.
it can make a process all of a sudden start to function in a way that it couldn't before.
Right.
Yeah, and it's those little things, and then the little things that are uniquely you and your team, right?
Yes.
Like, oh, this is how
Yes.
we do it. This is what we call it, and just
Yep.
having the ability to kind of grow from there, which is really cool.
Exactly. Exactly.
Awesome. Well,
And
shall
it
we
plays
take?
well, and it plays well with all the other tools,
Yeah.
which is I think super important. I think a lot of companies that are creating business software make the mistake of trying to do everything for
Mm,
everyone. But the packs and the ability to integrate with Jira and Gmail and Google Calendar and GitHub and everything just makes it insanely powerful, right? Because you
yeah.
can essentially just run your whole process
Yeah.
through Coda. It's great.
And I also think it, and I would be interested to hear if you agree, it
Hmm.
seems like it takes some of the burden off of the person who's bringing a new tool in if it can play well with other things. It's like, hey, you can still be doing whatever you got going on in Jira.
Hmm.
I'm just bringing it in here and making it so that it's playing well with all the other stuff that we're doing,
Hmm.
and that you kind of
Exactly.
can meet people where they are. You don't have to, be like, hey, this is the new thing we're all doing, and now I'm going to have to spend a ton of time doing change management with all of you about this
Right.
process.
Right.
Um,
And to be honest, there's certainly, when I introduced this stuff initially, there was a little bit of, oh gosh, there's another
yeah,
tool. It looked really complicated.
sure.
But my kind of the way I responded to that was that, well, think of these as applications. You don't really need to know how to use Coda. You just need to know how to use my document,
Yeah.
which, and you can lock parts and put like instructions. So don't worry about it. You don't need to
Hmm.
learn something new. Just, hey, when you read a PRD, click the Reddit button so that I know you read it.
Hmm.
you know,
Yeah.
it's that simple.
I
So
love that
so
too.
that helped a lot with just adoption and acceptance, and then people start going, well, maybe I should make my own doc.
Mhm.
And
Like,
so
ooh.
yeah, 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 exactly.
Yeah, and I also think there's a lot to be said for, like, yes, just assume that I'm a magician and I've made something completely magical. You don't need to know what's under the hood or how I did it. Just like
Right.
give me my accolades, right?
Right, right, right.
Awesome. Well, shall we take a look at one of your docs, one of the
Sure.
many that you've got? And I'm going to actually
Yeah.
pop the link to your profile into chat for folks. So Gannon is a superhuman and has a ton of docs that he's built, all available under that profile link that I just put over there. We're going to do a tour of some of them today, but I definitely encourage you do a deep dive on all the great content that he's got there. All right, Gannon, walk us through. What are we looking at here?
So you can see my screen, right?
Yeah, looks great.
Excellent. So this is kind of the primary tool that we're using at Choco and that I published, and this covers a lot of the kind of core fundamentals of cycle planning, which is developing a 3 month or 6 month roadmap. I use an
Hmm.
OKR based kind of planning process, as well as down to very detailed roadmaps. So, probably a good place to start would be um, I've tried to, for those who want to check this out, there's a nice kind of setup guide here
Nice.
on how to do everything, which I think is pretty useful. But I will just kind of jump into each of these sections since I
Cool.
know I kind of know how it all works. And let me
Yeah.
throw some of these things right here. So cycle planning, the way that I've set this up is first creating a playbook, and the
Hmm.
playbook is really just explaining like what is cycle planning, how does it work, um, and in the way that I do it is essentially bifurcated into two sections. One is
Hmm.
strategic planning, that's really kind of almost executive level company goals over the next year and the next 3 years. Like, what are the big milestones we want to hit? And then there's tactical planning, and tactical planning is where the rubber meets the road, so to
Yeah.
speak, and the actual real work happens.
Mm.
And from a kind of product and engineering perspective, this is what we use as the kind of foundational principle to develop a um, longer term outlook, right? Longer than a more a sprint level view
Sure.
or something like that. So I go into about OKRs for those who haven't used them before.
Hmm.
I also did this because I have Frankenstein OKRs. I learned about them when I was at Google, but I've since changed them quite a bit to
Yeah.
suit my purpose is better. And so it kind of talks about that, and then talks
Cool.
about here's strategic planning, here's how to do it, and then tactical planning, here's how to do it, really running through very specifically like how to run these workshops and so forth.
Yeah.
Excuse me.
No,
So
hydration is key.
yeah, I know, right? Plus I get a little bit nervous when I'm talking in
Ah,
front of a bunch of people.
you're doing
um,
great.
Thank you. So this first part of the playbook is really just content. It's just,
Yeah.
it's just written content, right? And then we get into more of the application itself. So
Hmm.
this is the planning. Again, we're in cycle planning. So how do you do cycle planning? Well, the first thing you need to do is you need to set up a bunch of meetings.
Yeah, for sure.
And one of the things I really loved about Coda was the integration with the GCal pack, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So right, so I can essentially have a kickoff schedule, and this first meeting is like it includes everybody in all of the product squads, as well as stakeholders, like key
Hmm.
stakeholders in other departments, that we add to, which I can show later, to the teams section. And
Hmm.
that's really where you start, is kind of building out your teams, and then you can schedule this kickoff that
Yeah.
includes everybody, and then you've got your workshop schedule. So the way that we do the tactical planning is it's squad based. So there's a
Gotcha.
schedule for each squad. Then there's usually, it takes approximately 4 hours. So I've broken it up into two parts, part one and part two. As you can see right
Hmm.
here, there's like 10 a.m. to 12, then 2 to 4.
Yeah.
That tends to work well for me. That kind of cadence works well.
Hmm.
this is a lot of work. It's a lot of time.
Yeah.
But breaking it out into those two pieces gives people time in the morning and time in the afternoon.
Hmm.
It's not taking up all their time, so
Yeah.
to speak, which is kind of key. And then, just kind of set these up and then boom, click schedule, and it goes to everyone's calendar, which is fantastic.
Nice.
And then if I need to update it, like, oops, I got to
Oh
change the time,
no.
click update event, and it goes and it updates it all in everyone's calendar, which is just
Beautiful.
fantastic because I don't have to go into uh, Google Calendar and add
Yeah.
people's names or anything. It's all kind of taken care of
Hmm.
right away. So that's kind of the first part. And the second thing I think that's worth pointing out is, and something I have found invaluable. And I used to do this with just kind of post-it notes and
Sure, sure. Hmm.
various mechanisms, but I really like and believe in providing autonomy to squads to
Totally.
define their own objectives and define their own key results and ultimately define their own initiatives, right?
Hmm.
And I found that a crowdsourcing approach that is inclusive of not just product, but engineering, of course, product design, of
Yeah.
course, but sales, executive team, customer support, like whatever.
Totally.
And the more people you can include, the better the outcome. And it's a little
Hmm.
counterintuitive. And oftentimes I get the feedback of, oh my gosh, I just saw how many people are in this meeting. This
Make them
can't
go away.
possibly go well. You can't have 50 people in a meeting. I'm like, relax. Like it's not, there's no like brainstorm. This is all
Hmm.
going to be asynchronous. Um, kind of asynchronous, and then we're going to upvote, and then we're going to talk about it. So
Yeah.
Coda is fantastic for that because you can do idea crowdsourcing. And I have
Hmm.
created a page here which kind of talks about how to go through it,
Yeah.
which I'll kind of show you right now. So for each squad, what we do is we set up a page like this,
Hmm.
and um, essentially, we talk about, or the squad leads, lead PM and the lead tech lead, will talk about what it is that they're doing, what it is
Nice.
that they're focused on. And then from there, based on that information, that's where these notes are,
Mhm.
they say, okay, we're dealing with this kind of stuff, that kind of stuff, this kind of stuff. Then we open it up to everyone to come up with how would you articulate that into a
Cool.
single objective that the team can carry with it, um, until the fundamental company strategy changes.
Yeah.
So the objective really doesn't change, which is a departure from the way a lot of people use OKR. So
Hmm.
I believe that the objective is very much like the mission statement, right,
Sure.
for this team, and it really won't change. And what I found, so you click add objective, and this is my
Ooh,
objective.
I'm gonna upvote this one for sure.
and and then that gets added. It should be added there. I don't know why it's not there. We'll
Oh,
figure that out
maybe it
later.
got filtered
I
out
don't
or
know.
something. Who knows?
Yeah, I don't know.
Hmm.
But anyway, so the you get a list of these, and then what I do is, and they're anonymous too.
Oh,
Um,
cool. Love that. Love that.
right?
Hmm.
So I hide the author and all that stuff, but
Hmm.
I can always look
Yeah,
later,
like who
which I
was
do,
that one?
because it's really interesting when we do the upvoting, right? So first, everyone, and I time it. I use this thing is just fantastic.
Oh, I
I'm
know the
I'm a
in-doc
terrible
timer.
I'm terrible at time management. Like I'm the worst. So if left to my own devices, like every meeting goes over, it's just a disaster. So I can say, okay, guys, we got 9 minutes, go, right? So I start the timer, and then I keep track of it, and then okay, stop, and then okay, now let's upvote, and I give another however amount of minutes is necessary to upvote these objectives. And what's really interesting is, um, that oftentimes the best objective articulation of what this team is doing in terms of their goals and so forth is contributed from someone outside of tech,
I love it.
right? And it just levels the playing field. You don't know
Hmm.
who's done what. Ultimately, I do think it's important to then give kind of ownership to
Sure.
the leaders of that squad to say, all right, well, we're going to use this one. We're going to change it a little bit,
Hmm.
but
Yeah.
invariably, it's very, very close to whatever was up for a couple
Totally.
months,
I also
right?
just love
So
how that lets everybody who cares about a product from all the different dimensions to be
right,
able to like say what they think is important and to be able to you could I mean I can imagine you could send this to 100 people, you get 100 people in there voting and everything. That could
right,
happen asynchronously and then the team has all this data to be able to
exactly,
just work with it. You don't have to sit down for 12 hours in an all hands with the whole company, but you can
exactly,
get the benefit of the result by how you've structured it here, which is
right.
I love. That's awesome.
And I firmly believe that the more the better. Like
Mhm.
the wisdom of the crowd is greater than that of the team, like a smaller team or an individual in almost all cases, right? And I
Yeah.
think as product people, our job is not to have the answer really. Our job is to facilitate a means of getting to the right answer. And
Ooh,
sometimes that
love
answer
that.
comes from places that you wouldn't expect. And,
Yeah.
having that kind of openness to ways of thinking about things is really helpful, I think. And also, it's great for aligning with sales and aligning
Yeah.
with marketing and aligning with all of these
Totally.
other groups. So we do that. We also have a little "I'm done here" thing.
Mhm.
So I know how many people are currently in the meeting, and so sometimes we don't need 10 minutes because everyone
Mhm.
says, "Okay, I'm done," and then we can move along.
Yeah.
So we essentially do this for objectives, and we do the same thing for key results, um, using the same kind of
Mhm.
methodology. And
Cool.
it's little instruction here. Squads identify up to 4 key results they want to track for their objective,
Mhm.
and then it explains what the key result is, which I'm sure most of the folks on this webinar know, so I won't go into that. And then initiatives really work the same way.
Neat.
Usually, we'll kind of paste the winning key results as a
Mhm.
view from this table.
Oh, cool.
And there's a little checkbox when these are populated, so you can, this is the winner, these are the
Yeah.
winners, and then
Just have a
filter it by
filtered
that.
view.
Yeah,
Amazing.
and so
Yeah.
have that pasted in there so people can see these are the key results. So
Mhm.
what initiatives do you think we should are going to have the biggest impact in moving the needle, like on achieving those
Yeah.
results, right? So that is, in a nutshell,
Mhm.
how we develop our cycle plan. And
Cool.
that's a 50,000 foot view of it. You
Yeah.
kind of have to read through the document to get the details, but that's
Yeah.
that's basically it. And then once that's kind of the overall cycle
Mhm.
planning, and then these become obviously OKRs, right?
Sure.
So
Mhm.
I've got in here key views, like here's the company OKRs, and we've got our mission statement, and there's different time frames.
Oh,
Like right now,
cool. Yeah.
we go by. I started adopting a seasonal approach. I
Hmm. I
stole
love that.
stole it stole it from I think Salesforce. Um, but yeah, so we just did our summer 2020 cycle plan, and
Mhm.
this is not real data, obviously. This is not our roadmap.
We are
If,
not working to make sure everyone on the team is happy. No.
exactly. But there's a few cool things to point out here. One is, I have some
Oh,
notification
nice.
automation set up so that every week, key result owners are reminded to update their progress,
Oh, great.
right, against a specific KR,
Yeah,
which is super helpful.
for
And then
sure.
and then if you look at team level OKRs, so you can go by your squads, like Squad A.
Nice.
There's a thing, same kind of thing, on track, and
Mhm.
all this other good stuff. And then these are all the initiatives. You got your objective, you got your key result. These are the initiatives that folks are going to do. This is the squad. This is time frame status.
Nice.
And then I added rice scoring.
Oh,
So
cool. Love that.
yeah, so I'm sure a lot of folks are familiar with this methodology. I think it came out of
Mhm.
Intercom a few years ago. I really like it. It can also be changed from
Mhm.
their original approach, and I've certainly changed it a bit in terms
Yeah.
of how it's calculated. But it's great because it's a nice, rapid way to prioritize initiatives.
Mhm.
And the thing I like the most about it is that the most kind of uh, prioritization methodologies are really focused on value and effort only,
Mhm.
right? And this takes into account value, effort, and then the confidence you have in the value and effort.
Yeah.
And
Mhm.
that's really key because in product, the more that you're able to do in terms of getting with real customers and talking to real customers and doing consumer research and
Mhm.
running UXR studies, the more confident you are, or prototyping,
Mhm.
etc. The more confident you are that what you're about to build is going to work as intended, right? So
Yeah.
it's great, when because that confidence really makes a huge difference. So it also shows me as like the you know a product leader that okay, this looks like it could potentially could be impactful, but the confidence is low. Why is the confidence low? Well,
Right.
it's because we haven't done the research yet to figure it out.
Mhm.
And I'm a big proponent of not shipping fast and breaking things, but rather um, kind of iteratively uh, uh, validating hypotheses.
Yeah.
And one should have multiple hypotheses, if possible, around solving a particular customer problem or user problem,
Yeah.
and being very objective about what the results are of your studies and tests,
Mhm.
taking really a scientific approach or
Yeah.
methodology where there's nothing wrong with having a hypothesis that doesn't work.
Mhm.
That's just more information for you,
Totally.
and that informs the right solution ultimately. So
Yeah.
I find this is really really useful. Another thing is you can add docs here.
Oh,
So if I said
cool.
this is my doc,
Love
and
it.
then, I love how you can just use the kind of standard,
Yeah.
Command K there,
Mhm.
boom. And then what that does is that adds doc links here. So if you've got some documentation
That's
around that
great.
particular thing, that's right there. So this is the cycle plan. And then, of course, and I know some people do this differently. I
Mhm.
like to separate views from edits,
Yeah,
just
sure.
because I think there's folks that just want to see stuff. And
Mhm.
then to actually edit this stuff, I've got a separate section, edits and updates, one of which is key result status updates. So there's an
Mm.
automation that's sent to all of the product leads for their squads every week, I believe,
Mhm.
to update their status. And this is where it sends them. This is the link
Nice.
that they get to go here and do it. And then so then you've got your cycle plan, right? You've got your
Mhm.
initiatives, and now let me show you the roadmap. So
Cool.
how do you get an initiative into the roadmap, right? So if you look here, one of the problems I was trying to solve to here is I really wanted a holistic view into every single initiative across every single squad,
Right.
right? And what the status was. And that's just surprisingly hard to get at a
Yeah,
lot of
I
companies,
know, right?
right? So, and there's a few things you can do. You could say, well, let's have a weekly 1 hour meeting, right? And
Sure.
everyone goes around and says what they're doing, and then
Blah, blah, blah.
you're kind of spacing out half the time, and it's not very useful. It's
Right.
really a waste of time. I really don't like status meetings. I just think they're dumb when you
I'm
have
with you.
the
Mhm.
ability to do asynchronous kind of work like this. So this is great. Like anyone can come here in the company and say, okay, what are we actually working on right now?
Yeah.
And there's a couple of things I would like to point out. One is we've done it so that I also have a feature request piece that'll show in a moment, but all the features that are feature requests are in green. So
Cool.
you know that there's a stakeholder and blah, blah, blah. We'll get into that in a moment. You can
Yeah.
see only your active projects, right? Or you can open it up and see like everything. And
Yeah.
active projects are defined as anything that's out of the not started or discovery phase. It's actually
Sure.
worked on. It's not in the backlog,
Yeah.
basically.
Yeah.
And you can, by the way, we've sliced and diced this a whole bunch of other ways since originally created this.
Mhm.
Um, but yeah, this is kind of the basics of it. You got your initial launch date, initial
Mhm.
release, launch date, and then you can also boom create a Jira story, right?
Cool. Oh, I love it.
Yeah,
Pax to the rescue.
yeah, which is awesome. if Jira is a tool that you
Sure.
use, um, this is a great way to kind of organize your roadmap. Product managers tend to not be huge fans of Jira. um,
Hmm.
so this kind of takes a lot of that away and says, let's us work the way we want to work, and then boom, can shoot it into Jira where it can
Right.
be further, groomed for engineering and so forth.
Yeah. Yeah, but
Which
it's
is
still all collected here, and you don't
yep,
have to jump between tab and tab and tab. It's like, all right, here's just that zoomed out view. What's happening? What are people doing? And then you can go deeper if you need to. I also
exactly.
love that you have the link to the PRD for all of
Yep,
these as
yep,
well. That's
which are
awesome.
also created in Coda,
Oh, fabulous.
which
Lovely.
if we have time, I'll show you.
Yeah.
But the other, so to kind of close the loop
Yeah.
on going from cycle planning to roadmaps. So I had this thing called Add OKR initiative. So what this does is allows us to first pick a squad, pick a time frame. Okay, these are the initiatives, and you
Hmm.
click Add to Roadmap, and it adds it now to the roadmap, which is a separate data set. It's a separate
Sure.
table, right? So now it's in the roadmap, and then it's down here, and then you triage it by picking the squad. So I just did self onboarding, as you can see it
Hmm.
appeared here. I'm going to say, okay, that's actually squad B, and the theme is another theme, and
Cool.
it's not started. Whoops, it's not started. I have no idea when the launch date's going to
Yeah.
be, and then I'm done. Okay, so now that OKR initiative is now in the roadmap, which is
Nice.
great because it's very seamlessly kind of go from high level OKR
Yeah.
planning to down to the nitty gritty of turning. I kind of think of cycle plan initiatives or OKR initiatives as epics for
Hmm.
those product people out there.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the roadmap often breaks down the epics into stories or
Hmm.
user stories or whatever semantics you use in your
Whatever
own,
you want.
whatever your jam is,
Yeah. Fair.
whatever you call it. And then another thing I think is really fantastic, that Coda enabled me to do is, and I think this is a challenge I've certainly faced with
Hmm.
in a lot of organizations, is especially if you're working in a B2B context. You've got sales folks in the field, you've got account managers who are talking to customers, and they're
Hmm.
getting really valuable feedback, right,
Yeah.
from customers. And I'm certainly not a proponent of just taking customer requests and just doing exactly what they say,
Sure.
but I am a proponent of like being aware of these and then figuring out what's the underlying problem here.
Yeah, exactly.
The problem, though, is how do you structure it? Because what we were doing before
Mm.
this is we just had a Slack channel, and so
Oh,
there's just this like completely unstructured stuff. You had no context. You didn't
yeah.
know, like, is this for your region or the whole world? How many customers
Hmm.
want this? What's the value of this feature, etc.
Yeah.
So it's really hard as a product team to kind of figure out is there recency bias going on. I mean, it's very common for a salesperson to go meet with the customer, and then the
Hmm.
most important thing is what that customer
This
wants.
one, yes.
You know what I mean?
Yes. Everyone wants this. Everybody,
Yeah,
I swear.
exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. So what you can do is what we did is built in some stuff here. So what's your feature description?
Hmm.
So build a uh, gosh, better mousetrap.
Ah, yes.
And the target user is call organizers, and the percentage of customers is
Oh,
like
I
this.
love that.
And then the value of the feature, and in
Hmm.
this case, it's GMV, but of course, you should change this to whatever,
Sure.
however you value these things.
Hmm.
So the GMV value is this. What regions would benefit from this? Okay, is it all?
Nice.
Is it the US, France, Belgium? Okay, this says
Yeah.
all. And then is this a sales blocker for you? In other words, without this feature, are you unable to sell our product?
Yes.
And to what degree? So if it's like,
Hmm.
it's kind of there, and then what region are you from? This is the requester, and that they
Hmm.
may be from France. So boom, now you've got a feature request. So
That's great.
and then what we do is the PMs, and we have a rotation of feature request triaging. So
Hmm.
the PMs go to the triage area, and what they do is, as you can see, they get them in like this, and
Hmm.
then they can't add it to the roadmap until they determine, okay, what squad's going to work on this, and then what
Yeah.
stage is this in? Because oftentimes it's like, oh, it's already done,
Sure.
so it's obsolete. I'm going to add it to the roadmap. Now, what this also does is it also takes the requester and adds them as a stakeholder to this feature. And then every single time the stage or the status of this feature changes, that person gets an email,
Love that.
right?
Yeah.
So if
Yeah.
you, because you always have the say, the person in marketing says, "Hey, I asked for this feature. Like, what's going on?"
Yep. Hmm.
"Oh, I'm not sure. Let me go find out." Instead, they're like, all the for the entire life cycle of this feature, um, when is it scheduled? Like, what
Hmm.
sprints is it going to be in? Is it a duplicate? If
Yeah.
so, I've also had the ability to merge duplicates and then take all the stakeholders
Yeah.
into one.
So
It's
cool.
really a good way to keep them uh, up to date on what's happening, right? And this I
Yeah.
find to
And I
be
would imagine I would imagine also like really valuable for the engineers and the product teams that are working on it too, right? You don't have
oh yeah,
somebody like pinging you over and over again. Or you can respond being like, look at the roadmap. Here's the link
yep,
to it, you know?
yep,
That it
exactly.
kind of frees up some of that space for the conversations to be more strategic and less like, hey, what's happening? Right?
Yeah, yeah, exactly,
Awesome.
exactly. So
Yeah.
that's really helpful. And then people can come in and also just look at their. So I'm using the user, current user
Yeah.
function. So
Great.
someone can just come and say, what's the status of my feature requests
Hmm.
at any time,
That's one of my
and
favorite
that's
filters.
super. Yeah, right. It's pretty cool.
Yep. I'm gonna post a
Um,
chat so folks can can steal that because it's something I use in probably 90% of the docs that I use that I'm sharing with people.
Right,
Yeah.
right, right. So we've got that. We've got the active projects, which is where I spend a lot of my time looking, like what's going on, and et cetera. And then I built a prioritization thing,
Mm.
which essentially again uses rice scoring, but
Hmm.
now we're at the individual initiative level, right? So
Sure.
folks can rice score things. Then of course you can sort by the rice score, and that helps with prioritization.
Hmm.
And then I built in a launch calendar. So
Great.
this is, what is launched recently, what's launching, coming up, etc.
Hmm.
And then oftentimes folks just want to see what's happening with a particular squad, right?
Yeah, for sure.
So this is just, the roadmap for squad A in this case,
Hmm.
which could be like your, onboarding squad or something like that.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so there's a page for each one, and there are automations. When the roadmap is updated, we log all of these automatically.
Oh,
And
cool.
this is just not filled in, but usually you would see, finally figured out the AWS issue. This is going to ship
Hmm.
next sprint. Boom.
Nice.
Right. And then things like, and this is frankly the version of this that we're using right now has grown significantly. But
Yeah,
things like, oh, wouldn't it be nice to just have a page where you could see all the PRDs?
that would be
You
nice.
know? There it is. So that's really great. And then the other thing I think worth pointing out is, which is, can be a challenge, I think, in a B2B software context where you really want to be uh, building things
Mhm.
and in a quick, agile manner, obviously.
Right.
But we also need to be cognizant that we can't be making daily changes for our user base, right?
Totally.
At Choco.
Mhm.
Now, I think it's very different for Coda. Like I can see
Mhm.
doing continuous deployment at Coda probably or may make sense. I really don't know how
Mhm.
you guys do it, but I know you guys ship a ton of features. Like I get
Yeah.
emails almost every day,
Yeah.
so
We're
which is
very,
great.
very busy.
Yes, yes. So you're very, very productive product engineering team, clearly. But in some when you're building, and what Choco, the company that I'm currently running product and engineering for, we're building essentially supply chain technology for restaurants or food service
Mhm.
operators. So it's not just restaurants, cafes, bars, and
Yeah.
suppliers, right? So in that case, one needs to be careful about communicating the changes that you're making to the app
Right.
because they're running their business on this, and they're
Mhm.
very fast paced kind of environments.
Yeah.
Imagine like a very busy restaurant, the chef, he's
Mhm.
running around. It's like you can't suddenly change the UI on them in the middle of
Yeah.
the day. They'll be
Yeah.
furious.
Yeah.
So we need to package our stuff, right? And bundle it to a degree.
Mhm.
Not with everything, but with big things. So
Yeah.
release management becomes an issue. And the way that we do it is there's a template and there's release details. So you pick the initiative from your initiatives and it tells you who's involved.
Automatically populates. Love that.
And then you've got product, and you send an email to the product manager and whoever, the CPO or whatever, and you basically say, who's responsible. Let's just put me here for now, and they will get an email, and then they need to. So this is when we are in internal release mode, like dog
Mhm.
fooding mode.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
we've got a major new epic that's about to ship. We've released it internally, and product needs to sign off on it. And I've, of course, these can be changed to suit your own organization, but these are the
Yeah.
things that all requirements for the feature have been met. Tracking and analytics for the feature have been implemented.
Mm.
Internal and external release notes are ready. Feature flags have been set. Product
Yeah.
management. And the final one, product management is satisfied with the release. This is key, right? So boom, I can sign off on it, turns green. But
Yeah.
there's also engineering, right? So let's engineering is
Totally.
code ready for production release. This is the debugging code been commented out. Has all code
Mhm.
been reviewed? I mean, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
And again, these really should be changed for whatever the
Whatever
issues
your
that we have.
criteria is.
Exactly,
Yeah.
right. So
Mhm.
so a lot of like the ones that I have are because we weren't doing certain things. Like, so we need to do these, let's make sure they're
Yeah.
done. And then design, marketing, QA, operations, which in our case is really a
Mhm.
euphemism for sales and business development
Sure.
to a large degree. And so, do we have knowledge base articles relating to this release that are available to customer support, internal troubleshooting guides,
Mhm.
sales enablement materials? Do it has product marketing put together the materials so that sales can talk about this feature, talk about the value proposition, what are the
Yeah.
USPs, you know, are really enabled to leverage this new great feature to help sell your product, right?
Yeah.
And then of course legal, right? Like are we
For
are
sure.
we complying with various laws, GDPR
Mhm.
and
Yeah.
especially in Europe, there's quite a few that you need to be
Mm.
cognizant of,
For
especially
sure.
when you're dealing with personally identifiable information.
Mhm.
So legal needs to sign off on it, and then once everyone signs off on it, it's like, okay, we can now ship this, right?
Yeah.
And then we ship it. So I would caveat this by saying that this is not appropriate, I don't think, for every type of
Sure.
technology company, but for those that see a need to be kind of bundled in how they release
Yeah.
changes, this is really helpful for that,
Yeah.
and
And
automates that process.
even just for, even if you're launching at a very fast-paced cadence,
Hmm.
sometimes being able to slow down and just make sure that everything is covered and that everyone who should be involved is involved. It's so easy to assume that something's being handled or something's working or, yeah, that's done. But just the mere act of saying, yes, I'm done means that when you pull the trigger to like get going, you know that you're not going to have to do a rollback or send an embarrassing, like, oops, our bad email.
Yep.
It's just, this reminds me of a book called The Checklist Manifesto, which was all about um, in healthcare. The
Right.
importance of, even if you're a super great doctor or super great nurse, the importance of having a checklist just reduces the amount of mistakes because you're busy, you're moving quickly, and there's sometimes a crisis on the line.
It's also pilots pre-flight. I have
Yep.
I'm a private, I can fly little planes. But
Oh, cool.
you do a pre-flight checklist, right? And even
Yep.
though you may have flown a zillion times,
Hmm.
you've got your checklist and you go around and you do it, and it's just a safety precaution, right? And this is the
Yeah.
same thing. This is a safety
Yeah.
precaution. The other benefit is that I first kind of came across something like this when I was at Google, and they had this used to have this kind of launch cal meeting,
Mhm.
and you had to say as the like product lead or something that flip this bit like this is ready for release, and I you definitely have to go, wait, okay, hold on,
Whoa, whoa, whoa.
let me double triple check first,
Yeah.
because you realize that you are essentially saying, okay, I'm accountable
Yeah.
for the quality of what's we're about to ship
Mhm.
here. And so it does help for people to be just really mindful
Yeah.
that their work is indeed done, and they
Mhm.
feel good about it, and we can all stack hands on this as a release,
Yes.
right? And go, yes. And
Yep.
if it's a bad release for whatever reason, okay, we messed up, but
Mhm.
we all messed up together, and we
Yeah,
all at least agreed that we thought this was going to work, and
for
it didn't
sure,
work.
and not for something
So
small and silly and a miscommunication, like,
exactly.
"Okay, everybody, we're all moving in the same direction. Now let's handle whatever comes our way." Yeah.
Yep. Totally. Totally. So how are we doing on time? I mean, I can go
We've
into some of
got
this.
we've got about 15 minutes left. So, yeah.
All right. I guess the other thing I would just point out, which is pretty basic stuff, is just so I tend to set up from a product perspective. There's product squads,
Mhm.
and but then there's also planning teams. And planning teams are the squads plus
This
stakeholders,
is all the
right?
sales and the marketing folks too. Yeah.
Yeah, and this is
Gotcha.
really key. And this is the data that's used. This is where the data is pulled to create those workshops,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah.
So it allows you to kind of expand the squad and include people from different departments
Yeah.
and so forth into the planning process. That's really great. And then I just started a little resources thing for the PMs and stuff.
Yeah.
Here's some books, but you could have blogs, like a blog section I would recommend, or
Yeah.
videos, and just stuff, for when people are onboarding.
Mhm.
Here's some books that we think are good books for product people
Yeah.
to read, and so forth. So that's like the main thing. You'll
Yeah.
see if you go to the first page, there's also a link to a bunch of other of these templates, which you can also find just here in my
Mhm.
profile. But I thought it might be worth, if we've got a few minutes to go through, maybe the PRD
Yeah, for
template, which I
sure.
think is pretty cool. And I can talk about the problem I was trying to solve here.
Yeah.
So the issue with PRDs I found is that they're often, so people want to be involved and have a voice in what we're building, right? And
Mhm.
a product requirements document or a product brief or whatever terminology you use is essentially the source of truth of what we're going to make, right?
Mhm. Yeah.
So, however, the challenge is that they can get quite long and technical, right?
Right.
So how do you convey in an easier to digest way to the right stakeholders what they really care about,
Right.
and then kind of uh, break out the more detailed technical pieces which they don't care about and frankly shouldn't care about,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
So what I've done is, you essentially start by setting it up. It's got a little bunch of checklists here of
Nice.
how to use a template, like copy it and rename it
Yep.
and blah blah blah, and you put in the details of your project.
Mhm.
um, by the way, the data I believe is, yeah,
Yeah.
so should be, it is not in these public templates, but it should be a cross doc sync
Mhm.
from the CPO
From that big
toolkit.
guy. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So then you pick your project, and then then it automatically populates who the leads are, et cetera, et
Yeah.
cetera. And then who are the part one required reviewers. So part
Mhm.
one is problem definition, part two is product definition. Part
Oh, I love how
one,
you've split that. That's really
yeah.
powerful. Love that.
Yeah, so I found that like the stakeholders generally, like executive team, sales, operations, people outside of the tech org, that's really what they care about.
Mhm.
Is like the like, what are we building and why?
Right.
Like they don't care about the technical design
Yeah.
document or anything like
Just
that, and they
make
shouldn't.
it
If they
happen.
do care about it, then they can go find it themselves, because that's they're wasting their time, frankly. Obviously
Amazing.
we've got the PM lead, the tech lead, the design lead, the product marketing manager, and then whoever the stakeholder is, you just put
Yeah.
their name in there, automatically populates their email, and then
Very
boom,
cool.
when it's ready for review, you send them a reminder, and
Love
then
that.
they can go here, and this is where they're sent. And I do, and folks can look at this. Everyone does
Hmm.
PRDs differently. This is the way I like to do them. It's not the right way. It's just my way.
Yeah.
So folks read it, and then at the bottom they say read it. Now
Hmm.
this is the thing we were talking about earlier. It's simple, but it's so important because for
Yeah.
me, we do have PRD review sessions with stakeholders, and
Hmm.
frankly, if you haven't read the PRD, I don't want you in the meeting
Yeah. Get out.
because this is not a inform meeting. This is not a
Yes.
I'm going to tell you what we're going to do. This is a feedback meeting. This is a
Hmm.
decide meeting, right? And
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
read the PRD. And if you haven't read the PRD, like don't come to the meeting because it's
Yeah.
you're going to ask questions that everyone in the room knows, and
Hmm.
we should instead be focused on what are people's concerns, where do people see
Yeah.
you know challenge, because I really want these things to be challenged, right? It's like,
Hmm.
maybe the head of finance has some issues with the revenue cost structure
Sure.
projections, like, I don't really buy that, blah blah blah, for these reasons. Great, that's good
Yeah.
feedback.
Yeah.
um what are the key trade-offs and decisions that we made? What are the competitive solutions out there? What are the operational requirements? This is often overlooked, right?
Hmm.
So if you've got a product that requires an operational piece, like it's a high touch sales enterprise thing, or you've got a strong customer support team such
Yeah.
as Coda, got an awesome customer support team.
Oh, they're the
um,
best.
they
Love
are
my
they are
champs.
they are awesome. So what are they like when you release something big? Like, what are the requirements on them? Like, how much
Yeah.
time is this going to take and stuff like that? And
Love that.
and what do who needs to be trained, and what materials do we need to create, et
Hmm.
cetera. So that this keeps that top of mind for the
Yeah.
PMs, which I think is key. And then so this is sent out to the folks involved in the tech team plus the stakeholders.
Hmm.
Then you get into the second part of which is the product definition, which
Right.
is really in most cases only the tech team needs to worry about this stuff.
Hmm.
This is the key feature scope, core UX flows, the tech design doc, which we've also created. A colleague of mine, the head of engineering, Gab, created a TDD template
Oh, cool.
in Coda, and this links to that,
Hmm.
which is great. Are you going to run experiments? What you definitely should do. What's the rollout plan?
Yeah.
What's the kind of operational task? Blah blah blah.
Hmm.
Go to market plan. This links also to the marketing brief, which is here. So
Cool.
every PRD has a marketing brief attached to it. Customer support plan dependencies, key project dates, team partners, resources, and links,
Yeah.
FAQ, and then reviewer acknowledgement again. I read it.
Boom.
So then in a lot of cases, you don't need all these sections. Kind of the guidance I give to my team is, use the parts that make sense. But this
Hmm.
is a good reminder each time you're building one of like, oh, do I need to be worried about this? No, I don't for
Right.
this
Yeah.
project. Let me delete
Hmm.
that. But for this project, yeah, I should be worried about that. And
Yeah.
then we've got a few other things worth noting is internal release notes that the PMs write.
Nice.
This is also used by PMMs to create the product marketing materials. And then with every release, when we do the internal release, we point people to internal release feedback, right, in the
Cool.
PRD. So people can,
Hmm.
we send out an email. It's like, hey, we just did an internal release of X. Check it out and please provide feedback at this page. And so people can add their
Yeah.
issues. And then there's upvoting. Let me see if this is working. Let's hope it is. My issue. The
Oh.
issue type is it's a bug,
Oh my goodness.
and this broke. And then can I repeat it? Like, is it repeatable or not? Okay, it's
Yeah.
repeatable. And then boom, it goes there. Great. So
Hmm.
and so then we can look during the internal release and go, oh, catch bugs.
Very cool.
And then when people are saying, well, actually, my issue is more the UX is ugly.
Yeah.
And so the issue type is an enhancement. Why did we use green? Why did we use
Why?
green? Of course, it's repeatable. So we can also look at this and go, oh, wow. And then upvoting. So
Mhm.
everybody thinks the UI is ugly. Shoot. There's like 10
Yep.
people. Okay. We definitely need to look into this. But
Yeah.
maybe just one person does. And it's like, well, it's subjective and it's a
Sit down,
subjective
Barry.
comment. Yeah. So
Green's
yeah,
fine.
relax. Yeah. It's we did a user study and green came out the best. We'll show you the study results.
Yes.
Um but it's again, this all comes back, I think, to the central theme of communication
Mhm.
and
Yeah.
engagement, right? With your team, with the rest of the company, and providing channels of communications that are structured, right?
Totally.
So it's not just a Slack chat, it's not an email that some people
Mhm.
weren't copied on. It's all in one
Yeah.
place, and it's just very, very helpful in optimizing, you know, uh, building software and
Yeah.
shipping software and avoiding as much as possible, um, wasted work or,
Mhm.
shipping invalidated product ideas and that kind of thing.
Yeah. I also
And
just love how you've
yeah,
linked everything together. Not only in your CPO toolkit where the objectives and the key results are linked to the initiatives, and then that's linked to the roadmap, and then that's linked to the feature requests. Like all of that is linked through with just how you've done your lookup tables, but then also that you've thought about like the larger ecosystem too. Like this PRD doc is also linked back to that core hub, the
yep,
TDD doc linked back to that core hub, and that everything is documented so that there's should there be confusion, you can be pretty sure that there's an answer somewhere, or
yeah,
like why we've done it, and that there's a way for everybody to be involved. At Coda, we were a distributed team before distributed teams were cool.
yeah,
We had lots of people all over the place. And particularly now, if you're dealing with different time zones or a global team or distributed folks, like making it so that everybody can document how they feel about something, so that it's not, oh, well, I work at different hours, so my Slack message got, pushed out of the fold, right? That I love how you've really intentionally designed this so that every voice can be heard, but it's
right,
still efficient and it's all linking back to everything else. Like nothing is in
right.
isolation, which I think is super cool
And we're
in how you've done
constantly
that.
iterating on it too. And
Yeah.
again, going back to like why Coda was such a game changer for me is I could never have done this with something else, right?
Mm,
As quickly, and as easily and as flexibly. And so, like anything, it's a living. These are all living tools, right? And
yeah.
we're constantly thinking of, oh, maybe our product marketing manager thinks, oh, we should have a separate view of just, this one really major initiative that we're doing for this certain group. And it's like,
Totally.
great and easy, boom, done, no
Yeah.
problem. Um, so yeah, do we have time for one more quick one?
Yeah, for sure.
Okay,
Go
cool.
for it.
So this one,
I'm
I this
happy
one,
to hang out.
this one I think is useful for any, like, whether you're in a tech org or in your marketing or
Hmm.
you're in anything, but everyone has recurring meetings, right?
You
And
bet.
right, the weekly whatever, the weekly staff
Yes.
meeting, the weekly whatever meeting,
Uh
right?
huh.
So again, uh, with a view towards adding structure and visibility and
Hmm.
transparency around what's going on in those meetings, I created a template that I use for all my recurring meetings. I also have like a one-on-one template too
Yeah.
that folks can check out. But it worked. Essentially, there's an automation that goes out like
Hmm.
a day or 2 days before the meeting, and it says,
Love
"Hey,
it.
everybody," or you can do it manually. It goes out to
Hmm.
everybody and says, "Hey, add topics for this meeting." So you can add
Hmm.
a topic, and you're proposing a topic, and that happens automatically. And then you can
Yep.
say the urgency. What type is this? Like, I believe every topic is either inform, discuss, or decide. Right. So,
Love
well,
that.
this is something we're going to decide something. I'm the owner.
Hmm.
And by the way, this is all filled out automatically if you do it this way.
Yep.
So it's like,
Beautiful. Nice little formula there.
this
Nice.
is my topic, and it's proposed. The urgency is this, and the type is decide, and then boom, it's down there. And then what happens is whoever runs the meeting kind of looks at this stuff and goes, okay, well,
Hmm.
today we're going to do this one, and we're going to
Yep.
do this one, But this one I think is not that important. Let's do that later.
Yeah.
Then the active agenda has got,
Cool.
and this is really the main. This is where the meetings run. So you've got your
Hmm.
attendees who are pulled from where is it? From the start here section where you add
Oh,
your
sure.
regular
Whoever's
attendees.
part of that.
Right. And then I think it's hidden right now, but there's another field called note taker. So, okay, who's here?
Nice.
Then you check who's present and then who's the
Yep.
note taker. And then you go through the topics and then you take
Hmm.
notes. And then we've got action items. So if there's action items that come out of the meeting, instead of just putting them in the
Hmm.
notes with like, at Gannon, buy more.
Green. Ah.
Yeah. Stop using green in the product. It doesn't go there because then it gets lost, right?
Right.
And so
Useless.
what I do is, okay, making an action on it, and then I have a personal productivity Coda doc that cross docs all the action item sections from all my reoccurring meetings into one mega
Nice.
list of like, oh, this is all of my action items, which is really really cool, right? Because
Yeah.
and instead of
That's
having to
so
worry
cool.
about like whatever, if you're using
Hmm.
Asana or Todoist or any of those kind of like to-do list things, you don't have to do that.
Right.
You can just
Hmm.
you can capture your action items in the meeting and then pull it into your own, which I'll publish. I'll clean it up and publish it. But
Yeah, that'd be great.
it's actually a modification of the one that Shashir uses. What is it
Oh
called?
yeah.
What is it
His
called?
his um his full time tracker doc that he uses,
No,
or
I think
his.
the Betterment one, like 4 ways. I can't remember the name of it.
Oh,
It's
it's
really
gonna hit me as
popular.
soon as we sign off today.
It's
I
very
know
okay.
what you're talking about, but
Anyway,
yeah.
so I basically stole that, but I changed it a lot to make it
Hmm.
work better for me, right?
Yeah.
So, and I think that's also a really great way to use Coda, right?
Hmm.
It's try to find something that's pretty close to what you want to do, and then modify it, and make it your own, right?
Totally. Yeah.
And that's
Everything's
just
editable for a
right.
reason.
Yeah, exactly. And that's fantastic. So,
Mhm.
yeah, so this is all out there. Uh, as you mentioned, all these documents. This is the main
Mhm.
one that we went through. I also have a PM hiring playbook, tech
Cool.
design document that was done by Gab, as I
Right.
mentioned,
And
PRD
that's linked in the
template,
PRD. Hmm.
reoccurring meeting template, and there's a one-on-one template too for folks who are doing
Nice.
regular one-on-ones. So yeah,
Awesome.
that's about it.
I love this. Well, again, you blew my mind in all the right ways today. This was so
Thank you.
fun. I encourage everybody, take a look at Gannon's profile. I have the link over there in chat. Take a look, explore, and then, like Gannon said, take what you like and make the things you don't like your own. That's really the approach we're looking for today.
I'm gonna stop
Before
sharing
we
my
sign
screen,
off,
right?
Gannon, anything that you want to plug for folks, things they should check out? Yeah.
No, I don't have any. I'm not.
Totally, Vigo. It is just limited by your imagination. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. No, I have nothing to
Uh,
plug. No, but thank you
no
for the
problem.
offer.
I always just like to ask because you've been so generous giving us your time. So if there's anything we can do to help, point people in a direction, definitely let us know.
Just
Um,
keep shipping those features.
oh, you got it. I will
Yeah.
go and find Shashir right now and be like, Shashir, keep doing
Oh, he knows. He knows. I email him like he knows.
it. Oh, excellent. All right. Well, Gannon, have a wonderful rest of your day, wonderful
Thank you.
weekend. Thanks, everybody, for joining us. Have some fun. Check out Gannon's templates. And if you ever need help, just get in touch with us at the support team. You can also email me directly, maria@coda.io. Happy to point you in the right direction. All right, y'all. Take care.
Thanks so much
See you
for having
later.
me. That was fun. Ciao.
Yeah. See you, Gannon. Bye.
Bye.